You're watching Footy Culture on Karis Maggie TV.
Baby, there we go. They got us once again.
On today's episode of Footy Culture, meet the founder of the Where Are You From project and Roatan's finest, Damaris. She has done this project to raise funds to help the children of Roatan. In this video, she speaks about Roatan, an island off the coast of Honduras, and one of its richest cultures, the Garifuna culture.
Hi, my name is Damaris. I'm from Roatan, which is an island off the coast of Honduras. When it comes to language, although Honduras is a Spanish-speaking country, Roatan is a English-dominated island. There is Spanish on the island just because of the Honduran government, and you have to pretty much know a little Spanish to get by. When it comes to communication between the locals, it's mainly English. We're heavily influenced by the West Indies, so that's where we get a lot of our culture from. Now, when we talk about culture, I like to take it to the east side of the island, to what I believe is Roatan and just Honduras in general's most richest culture is the Garifuna culture. Roatan is the first place that the Garifuna people landed after being exiled from St. Vincent, and a lot of our culture we brought with us. I say we because I'm Garifuna. When it comes to the ethnic group in Roatan, Roatan is a very, very, very extremely diverse island. We are predominantly black people, but there's just not one set group of people when it comes to ethnic people. You have what we call, you have white people, you have Wage people, you have black people, you have the non-black Hispanics, you have people with white hair, blonde hair, green eyes, Roatan is definitely diverse, and it has a lot to do with the way people use the island. The island was used, for pirate stops. The island was used for slave trade. The island was basically it's like a middleman to a lot of countries, Scotland to Great Britain to Central America, the U.S. itself, Jamaica, Cayman Islands. A lot of the West Indian culture that we have right now comes from people who fled Jamaica and who fled the Cayman Islands, and they came to Roatan. So a lot of, when it comes to ethnic groups, we're predominantly black people, yeah, but we have pretty much everything. So when it comes to culture, I and anyone who I believe is Honduran and has an honest heart can honestly say that the richest culture that Roatan has to offer is Garifuna culture. A lot of people mistake traditional Garifuna things, especially like punta, for Honduran culture, but it's not. Garifuna people were exiled from St. Vincent, and Roatan actually was the first settlement that they made after exile from Balisao. When it comes to food, when it comes to music, when it comes to dancing, there's nothing that beats the Garifuna drums. There's nothing that beats the punta drums. Punta is a traditional Garifuna dance. We were all raised dancing it. I was born in the village of Punta Gorda, which is the village the Garifuna people living in Roatan. A lot of people mistake Roatan for being a Garifuna island, but it's not. It really just has that one Garifuna village, but the rest of the island is just an English island with English people. When it comes to Garifuna culture, there's a lot of people who don't dig deep enough into the culture. They don't really understand why it is, where punta music even came from. Punta music originally wasn't even, supposed to be this fun, jumping, popping music that everyone's like, oh, if you're not Honduran, you can't dance. That's not the case. Punta music actually comes from, Paranda music started as burial music. It was music used for funerals, and it eventually became funerals eventually became celebrations, and that's how the genre began to develop. When it comes to food in our Garifuna culture, we have a traditional Garifuna plate called hudut. Hudutu is made out of mashed plantain in coconut milk. That's the original bowl with fish. As the culture grew, as the culture developed, a lot of people started adding their own, things into it. But originally, it's coconut milk, plantain, and fish. Garifuna people have always been known for being fishermen, so that makes sense why it would be our traditional dish. A problem now that we're having in the Garifuna culture is that our elders they're not taking the time to teach us language. Now more than ever, I feel like this generation of Garifuna kids, around my age and the upcoming generation, they're doing a lot more to try to pick up on the language, because when you think about it, if it dies out, it's really like the language stops developing, it really just dies out. There's who else is going to carry the torch? So if it's not us, then Garifuna Settlement Day in Roatan is April 12th. We celebrate the day that we arrived from Yurume, and it's referred to as Yurume. We celebrate this day because it's a day that a lot of people actually don't know that before April 12th, Garifuna people actually landed on the opposite side of the island. But because near where Camp Bay was, but because that side of the island it didn't have what they needed in terms of, a place, places to build houses, places to go look for food, to grow crops. It wasn't, that part of the island wasn't developed enough for them. So what they did was they found something that was on the seaside, and there they developed the entire village. There's nothing I'm more proud of than being given the opportunity to be a Garifuna woman and to share this culture with my Garifuna brothers and sisters. And then being from Roatan, anyone who knows me knows that I love my island. They know that I represent my island. We do have a lot of developing to do, a lot more exposure to receive. That's pretty much what I got to say about Roatan and about being Garifuna and about a small place off the coast of Honduras.